And then if you scroll to the left, you'll see the other picture. Yeah, there's some over there.
To the left. Raquel and I was mute to Houston and now.
It's all there. So there's a bunch of pictures of like ants.
I'm sorry?
Did I mute Houston and Dallas properly?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be under TWU Forums Panels on our Ustream account. If you just go to our computer website, click that little Ustream tab, and then go to TWU Forums Panels, and you can watch it live. It's on the right hand side. No. Yeah. Bye. Baby.
Are you going tomorrow? So Brandon. Ask Brandon to come up so we can finish.
I'd like to go ahead and get this meeting started, if we could. I'm Brenda Floyd, for those of you who don't know me. I'm Vice President for Finance and Administration. And I have with me today the Provost, Dr. Robert Neely, and the Vice President for Student Life, Dr. Richard Nicholas. And we will all be presenting today. We have put 6 agenda items on the February Board of Regents agenda relative to tuition and fees. And we wanted to present those recommended changes to you in a public forum today. We are required by statute to bring forward any proposed change in board designated tuition. The other changes that we're going to recommend, we want to present to you because we want you to see the full effect or impact of what we're recommending. You may ask questions when we're finished. I'd like to remind you, for those of you who have known this, but there are 2 types of tuition. One of the agenda items is a recommendation to increase board designated tuition. That's one type of tuition. There's also another piece of your tuition that's entitled state tuition. State tuition has been fixed at $50 a semester credit hour since 2003. And since 2003, board-designated tuition has been allowed to be permitted to be adjusted at the approval of our Board of Regents. And currently, board-designated tuition sits at $121.84. And we are recommending an increase in the board-designated tuition. It is not within our purview or the purview of our Board of Regents to change the piece called state tuition. Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is to bring up a document that shows all the Texas public universities' total tuition and fee costs for the current fiscal year. And we're going from highest to lowest. Oops, too fast on the finger here. And you can see we're certainly not the highest. We are currently, for a full year, 30 hours, at $7,050. The highest in the state is $11,592. The average for the state, the average of all the universities, is $7,396. Remember, that's for a full year, both fall and spring semesters. So here we sit at the blue line at $7,050. That's 20th out of 38 public universities in the state of Texas. We are proposing to increase board-designated tuition by $8.36 per semester credit hour. If our Board of Regents does approve that, then we would move to the pink or the red line, which puts us at position number 19. So we don't move very far with this recommended change. I'd like to talk about TWU's position just a little bit. We have intentionally held our board-designated tuition as low as we possibly could, and yet cover the costs that we need to cover, so that students in the state of Texas have a viable option. If you can't afford UT Austin or UT Dallas, then TWU financially just might fit the bill for you. Now, we have done this while also receiving significant budget reductions. The current year and last year, we realized a 17% reduction in state appropriations. That amounted to $10 million over the 2 years of the biennium. That is a significant decrease. Last year, we did not raise tuition or designated tuition. This year we did. We took it up by 1.65%, and that moved it to the $121.84 that I told you about earlier. If the Board of Regents approves the board-designated tuition increase, that would put us for board-designated tuition at $130.20 per semester credit hour. If you add that up for a student taking 30 semester credit hours over the year, that's an increase in tuition of $250.80 over 1 year. It keeps us within the state statute requirements of not exceeding $280 over a year. We are restricted in what we can indeed increase. The increase, if approved by the Board of Regents, would go into effect immediately, which for you students means that you would see the increase for the summer semesters, May semester and into the summer semesters and fall. And I'd like to then take you to a chart to show you what designated tuition is used for. We have budgets that operate out of the board-designated tuition. Almost all of our departments have a budget that's funded for their M&O, their maintenance and operations, from board-designated tuition. And that makes up the largest portion of the uses for board designated tuition. And then we have, this Melissa and I are not getting on. Then we are required by statute to set aside funds for undergraduate scholarships or tuition support. We are required to set aside a certain amount, a certain percentage for graduate student scholarships, and we do that. We also budget for debt retirement. Currently, we are funding a debt on a building that we have that we're still paying for in Dallas, the new building in Dallas. And then the next really largest piece, other than the designated budgets, is scholarships, in addition to the set-asides that we talked about earlier. We have nearly $5 billion in scholarships that we fund from designated tuition. You can see the amounts of money that we set aside or spend or have budgeted in each one of these pieces of the pie chart. Now, you might ask me, okay, that's fine. That's what we're spending the money on now for board designated tuition. Why do you need more? And this $8.36 would generate about $2.25 million each year. Our rationale is four-part really, in that we are seeing already that the appropriation is looking flat at the legislature at this point in time. We will receive, at best, an additional $1 million if the Senate bill passes. If the House Bill 1 passes, we would receive an additional $500,000. That's very little money when you're talking about a budget that is over $200 million each year. So our appropriation appears that it will be flat, and then we have some other very critical needs. And I'm going to ask Dr. Neely to speak to the first one, and that is new faculty needs.
I think, as all of you know, the university has been growing over the last decade. In fact, if you look at credit hour production in 2004, we were about 226,000 credit hours. Today, we're over 330,000 credit hours. If you look at the change in the level of faculty, and the best data I have only go back to 2007. 2007, we had a head count of 450. That includes clinical faculty and instructors. Today, we only have a head count of 452. So you can see that credit hour production, courses we offer have been going through the roof, but faculty have been almost flat. We're starting to receive increasing scrutiny about the number of faculty we have. In fact, if you don't know it, this institution is regionally accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. We are right now in our reaffirmation of accreditation year. And they have called us out on the number of faculty we have. And they, in fact, they asked specifically in our accreditation materials why we did not include a plan to grow faculty. Similarly, the coordinating board, in a review of one of our other programs, questioned the number of faculty that we have. So as you can see, even our outside overseers are asking questions about the number of faculty. So what I have proposed to the cabinet is that we grow the number of faculty by 18 FTE. Where that puts us in the state is that 60% of our faculty would be tenure or tenure track. That is below the state average. The state average is about 65%. But it moves us up the ladder by 4%. We're at 56% now. So I've suggested over a 4-year period, we grow by 18 FTE, 6 next year, and then 4 for the 3 years after that. So it's clear that we're going to have to find the money to increase the number of faculty.
The second reason for the need to increase board designated tuition is staff and faculty salary compensation. For the past 2 years, this one and the past, we gave no base salary increases nor market adjustment increases to faculty or staff. We gave small one-time stipends, but not an increase to the base salary. This is becoming ever more increasing problem in terms of being able to retain and to hire new faculty and staff. Competition is the name of the game, whether it be local for staff or whether it be national competition in the faculty and in the administrative ranks. The third reason that we're asking for this increase is just to cover cost increases. We are realizing cost increases on an annual basis, just as you see in your own personal budget. For example, Blackboard, all of you all are familiar with Blackboard and the use of Blackboard in your classroom situations. Blackboard is to go up $100,000 in its licensure next year. We are realizing minimally 10% per year increases in our software costs. And as you would guess, we are heavily dependent upon a great many software packages to do what we need to do. So what does this look like? I told you that if we could probably generate around $2.25 million, sounds like a lot of money, but with what Dr. Neely just told you and what I just told you, we can very quickly spend that, if not more. Our needs are even greater than the $2.2 million that this would generate. For example, Dr. Neely's request for 6 new faculty members would cost approximately $600,000 1 year, and then ongoing in future years. A salary increase, even at 1%, though I'm not sure that's the way we would give a salary increase, would cost about $700,000 for 1 year and ongoing. And then cost increases are almost limitless. As you heard me say, $100,000 for Blackboard alone. So we could very quickly, very easily spend the $2.25 million that of an increase would generate. We must be careful, however. We don't know yet what next year is going to look like. We don't know if we can even fund out of the $2.25 million 1 year, or if we're going to have to look at this $2.25 million covering increases for 2 years. If it must cover increases for 2 years, then what Dr. Neely asked for 6 faculty positions might not be 6. It might be 3 or 4. And salary increases could look very different than even a 1%. So this is the reality of the university's financial situation. We are relatively in good shape against other institutions. We have never operated in the red, and we can't and we won't. But at the state level, the appropriations are not going to meet the needs of putting forward for you an increasing high quality education. And I'm going to stop there before we get into any of the other types of fee changes or differential tuition changes and ask if there are any questions. And I'm going to open up, I think I am Raquel, possibly. Well, Raquel, where are you?
There you go.
Okay.
It's up.
Can Dallas and Houston hear me? Yes,
Yes.
very good. Okay. I'm going to open up for questions on specifically board designated tuition. Goodness. It's quiet. Yes.
Oh, I do have a question. Just speaking to one of my professors that I'm having for this semester, he was saying that he hadn't received a raise in 5 years. Now, with this increase in the designated budget, are you going to be able to basically give all faculty members raises, or just some that you feel that are qualified? Like, how is that going to work out?
The question was for Dallas and Houston. The student is reflecting the fact that one of her faculty members said that he had not received a raise in 5 years. Is he a full-time faculty member?
I believe so.
Full-time faculty members all received raises in 2011.
Okay.
But her question is, are we going to be able to give all faculty members a raise or only certain ones? And we don't know the answer to that question. It's a very good question. We're currently in the process of completing a compensation study, and from that study during the spring semester, we will determine what we feel is most appropriate in terms of salary changes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, Houston or Dallas? Yes.
This is Dr. Woods from Dallas. Since we are not that close to the $280 restriction, not going for more designated tuition at this time.
Good question, Dr. Woods. We are restricted further from the $280 by a limiting factor of 3.95% of current tuition and academic fees. And that calculates to the $8.36. Any other questions before we talk about differential tuition? All right, you can ask questions later if you wish. Dr. Neely, let me see if I can mute Houston and Dallas for you.
Talk for a few minutes about differential tuition. If you don't know what that is, all it means is that there's additional tuition that's assessed on the basis of a program or on the basis of a major. And it's nothing unusual at TWU. In fact, we already have 3 programs with differential tuition. Those are nursing, dental hygiene, and physical therapy. This tuition is allowed by the state, and it allows you, rather than charging a higher rate overall, to try to target the cost for more expensive programs to deliver. And as you know, recently we switched from course fees to program fees. Our model had been to charge a huge number of course fees, and in some cases very high course fees. And what we decided to do was try to come up with a simpler, more comprehensive model for students, but we knew that would give us some problems in a few programs because we weren't charging the same level of course fees. In fact, the switch from course fees to program fees resulted in a decrease of $1.7 million in revenue over a 2-year period. So we've been looking very carefully at those programs where expenses aren't offset by revenue. So what we're proposing is that we have 5 new programs for differential tuition. And we're not proposing this for all students. Again, we look very carefully at where we can target the costs. So one would be in the School of Management. In the School of Management, we're proposing a $40 per credit hour differential tuition for master's students. And that's primarily for the delivery of the online program where we have to provide specialized staffing to cover those online courses. We're also looking at the Department of Health Sciences for a $40 per credit hour increase for the same reason. Almost all of their programs are online. The Department of Communication and the Department of Communication Sciences, we're looking at $10 per credit hour only at the master's level, again because of their specialized online program. School of Library and Information Studies, we're looking at $10 per credit hour for master's and doctorate level for their online program. The last new one is the Department of Fashion and Textiles, which is an interesting one. This is a department that is unique in how they approach providing materials to students. Rather than asking students to go out and buy their own materials at Joann Fabrics or wherever, they buy everything centrally, which provides cost savings to students. They either provide those materials to students free of charge or at a very reduced charge. So what we're looking at is trying to cover the costs they have for that effort. Plus, fashion and textiles is now software intensive, it's equipment intensive, it's lab intensive. It's really a high-cost program. Two other programs we're looking at raising the differential tuition slightly. In dental hygiene, it already has it from $5 to $20 per credit hour, and in nursing from $25 to $35 per credit hour. Can I answer any questions about differential tuition? So we're looking at 5 programs that currently don't have this. I might add in closing that this is not unusual either in the state of Texas. I mentioned it's not unusual at TWU, but the A&M system, the UT system, even some of the community colleges are charging differential tuition, and it's even more prevalent across the U.S.
Thank you, Dr. Neely. There are 4 other agenda items related to fee changes, and I would like to ask Dr. Nicholas to come forward and talk about those.
Starting with fees, there are 2 items on the board agenda for changes in student fees outside the academic area. In the area of the student union, we are proposing a $3 increase. That's a flat fee, not per credit hour. As most of you are aware, we've been discussing the possibility of a new union. That is for reasons related to the status of the current building. This increase is for the current building. We need additional funds for the maintenance and repair. We are anticipating significant work to be done on the building related to fire code and life safety code adjustments, and we need additional revenue to do that. The union is a self-supporting facility. It does not receive funding from tuition dollars or from state appropriations. To try to offset that increase on the fitness and recreation fee, we are proposing a $2 reduction. Again, this is a flat fee, not per credit hour. The fitness center has built a management reserve now. We were actually able to build the building at a slightly lower cost than we anticipated. So rather than continue to charge the current fee, we believe we can manage the facility now that it has a reserve with $2 per person per semester less. Again, that's a flat fee. So taking those 2 fees together, there's a $1 net increase for the non-academic student fees. Shifting to auxiliaries, these are the self-supporting operations that all students do not pay for. We are proposing an increase in housing rates. It will be an average of just over 3%, and I say an average because the rounding and the way the rates are applied to different room types and apartment types. That increase, simply put, is to manage rising costs. Just like the rest of the university, the housing operation is seeing significant cost increases. And housing is a fully self-supporting operation. Again, no money from the state, no money from tuition. Those students who pay to live there must pay the whole cost. In the same vein, we're proposing an increase of just over 2% for the meal plan rates. If you've watched the news at all, you know about grocery bills going up, costs going up, and it's the same for the food provided here. We believe that we can manage those increases with an increase of just over 2%. Again, that applies only to the students who have one of the various meal plans. And the average is based on the fact that the different meal plans have slightly different rates. Well, there's the other 4 agenda items. Are there questions on those items? Madam President.
I do have a question. With the student union $3 increase, are we just going to maybe postpone the increase for the new student union and just work with this for right now, since we're trying to do the designated budget fees, and just wait for that to happen?
Good question. The plans for the new union have gone on hold, in part because of concerns during a legislative session whether we would be able to have that fee increase. We've done the preliminary planning. We have all the basic information for a new union. This increase is for the current building and probably would be necessary whether we were building a new one or not. We hope to go forward at some point, but right now that is entirely on hold. The current Union building, which was built in the 60s, has its share of physical plant issues, repairs. You know, it's a rare rainstorm when there's not a bucket under a leak someplace. But more importantly, we do have to make some upgrades in the building. We know, even if we were building a new building, there's still a couple of years to use this one. If it turns out we are not building a new one in the foreseeable future, even more has to be done to that building, and the fee must pay for it. The union does not have a very large reserve fund to go to. We will have to charge more currently to make it happen. Just the new request from the fire marshal, for example, will probably cost well over $1 million. Any other questions?
Houston and Dallas, have we answered all your questions? Okay, thank you. Thank everyone for coming. If you have any additional questions, you can email me at bfloyd@twu.edu. Thank you again.